A bid for 2 in a row for the wonderfully athletic Midori Ito. Her bid would fail because of trouble in the compulsory figures. The figures, remember, have disappeared in 91. In the pairs, the Soviet champions Gordieva and Grinkov would again dominate in Halifax. They have now turned pro. For Canada, a brilliant skate by Lloyd Eisler and Isabelle Brasseur would earn them silver. Will it be gold here in Munich? This year, we'll see the same three-way battle in dance. The Soviet stars, Klimova and Ponomarenko, took gold in Halifax. No question, the people's choice was, and still is, the innovative Duchesnes. The third power in dance, also from the Soviet Union, Yusova and Zulin. As tonight, we begin our coverage of the World Championships from here in Munich. In the Olympia Halle on the site of the 1972 Summer Games. This was the Velodrome back in 72, now transformed into a multi-purpose facility, home to ice skating this week. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the first of 6 nights of prime-time coverage from the World Championships here on CBC. And it should be interesting. This year, for both the men and women's singles competition, gone are the compulsory figures. And for the first time since 1962, Canadians come to a World Championship favored to win gold in 2 events. Kurt Browning, of course, expected to repeat as world champion for the men. Lloyd Eisler and Isabelle Brasseur favored to win in the pairs. Tonight, we are going to show you the compulsory dances and the original pairs program. Now, speaking of the pairs, it is an event in which Canadians have a long and storied tradition. In all, Canadians have won 7 gold medals in pairs competition. Right now, Chris Cuthbert is standing by with the last 2 Canadians to win gold in the pairs. Chris?
Brian, let's take you back to a magical night in 1984 at the Worlds in Ottawa, when Barbara Underhill and Paul Martini dazzled us all with a golden performance. Since then, they've gone on to a marvelous pro career. We're delighted that they've joined us here in Munich and that you're on our Canadian team now.
Chris, Barb and I are just ecstatic about being here as active participants in a World Championship for the first time since our retirement.
Now, it is fitting that 2 other Canadians tonight will try to follow in your footsteps.
Yes, and all eyes will be on Lloyd Eisler and Isabelle Brasseur this evening. After the retirement of the reigning world champions, Gordieva and Grinkov, Lloyd and Isabelle are ranked #1 in the world. However, one can never take for granted the Soviets, who have 3 strong teams. As well, Christine Huff and Doug Ledre are very strong contenders with a fun, energetic, short program, which is sure to stand out.
Now, that comes up later tonight, but first, the dance competition begins with the compulsory dances. This is going to be an intriguing competition.
Chris, every event here has a story, and the story in ice dancing is whether or not the reigning world champions, Marina Klimova and Sergei Ponomarenko, can keep their title. They enter this event having recently been cleared of an illegal substance abuse accusation. With that behind them, they've got to watch out for their own teammates, Yusova Zulin, as well as the ever-popular Duchesnes. From the Canadian team, we look forward to exciting things from our new dance champions, Michelle McDonald and Martin Smith, as well as Jacqueline Peter and Mark Janaszek.
Promises to be a very interesting night of skating. Right now, back to Brian Williams.
Thank you, Chris. Up next, our first competitors of the evening. Canadian dance champions Michelle McDonald from Abbotsford, British Columbia, and Martin Smith from Woodstock, Ontario, when we return. And on this Tuesday evening, CBC Sports happy to welcome you back to the World Championships here at the Olympia Halle on the grounds of the 1972 Summer Olympic Games. Tonight again, we see the compulsory dances. There are 2, and the original program for the pairs. Now, before we get to the skating, in the first of our perfect 6 installments during our coverage here in Munich, former world champions Barb Underhill and Paul Martini explain the differences between pairs and dance competition.
A fascinating look inside figure skating. The world's finest skaters in perfect 6s. Brought to you by the agents of Sun Life.
While watching these World Championships, you might notice 2 events that appear to be similar: pair skating and ice dancing. Here are 2 examples of ways you can tell the difference between these 2 events.
First, in pair skating, the girl is lifted above the man's shoulders with the man's arms fully extended. In ice dancing, the girl's whole body may not be lifted above the man's shoulders. Therefore, his arms are never fully extended above his body.
Secondly, in pair skating, you will see the skaters perform the same solo jumps and spins that you would see in a free skating event. However, in ice dancing, you may not perform these elements, and you must not separate for more than 5 seconds.
On the surface, it may appear that the pair skating is more athletic than ice dancing. Don't be deceived. The only difference in these events is how the rules force the skaters to push the barriers in pursuit of the perfect 6.
Perfect Sixes has been brought to you by the agents of Sun Life. Discover the difference the sun makes.
26 couples are competing here. Here are the 1991 Canadian champions, Michelle McDonald and Martin Smith. They've been at the Worlds before, but not together. This couple just formed on Labor Day.
It appeared as though they had a minor slip there near the end of this dance, but I think it will be interesting. We'll see what the judges do with it.
Paul, they were second in the compulsory dance portion of the competition at the Nationals. Because they got together so late, they didn't feel they had enough time to really concentrate on the compulsories. They felt better prepared coming into the Worlds.
I think that the time, every day that they have together is important for them, and I think as each day goes by, they're getting better and better.
No, thank you. I think that the unison is something that only develops with time, and I think that these two have a great potential in the future, and it will take time.
Well, the Austrian judge just a 3.9. The marks get better from there, but they will be ranked 3rd among the first 3 couples to skate in the compulsory dances.
All right, Chris, there are, of course, 2 portions to the compulsory dance competition. We've just seen McDonald and Smith in the Ravensburger Waltz portion. Right now, to explain more about the Ravensburger Waltz, here is one of Canada's international figure skating judges. We introduce you to Jean Senft.
The Ravensburger is a sprightly waltz, first invented and performed in 1973 by a brother and sister ice dance couple from Germany, Angelika and Eric Buch. It is fitting it has been chosen as one of the compulsory dances here in Munich.
The Ravensburger is a waltz to be skated with Viennese elegance and élan. At the same time, it is a robust waltz, and one that, in the words of one of Canada's prominent ice dance coaches, is self-propelling when performed well. One of the most intricate parts of the Ravensburger is the ladies' twizzle. You are probably wondering, what is a twizzle? It is a rapid rotational movement of 1 to 1.5 revolutions, much like a short traveling spin performed on one foot. There are 3 twizzles in a Ravensburger, 2 forward and 1 backward. The difficulty with these twizzles is to perform them seemingly without effort, while the partners skate closely together and with the lady rotating directly under the man's raised arm. No lunging or break in the continuity of movement should be apparent.
While there are other important components to the Ravensburger, the twizzles are definite highlights for comparison between all skaters.
Thank you, Gene, and with that in mind, we will watch the first compulsory dance of the number 2 Canadian dance couple, Jacqueline Peter, 20 years old, from Winnipeg, and Mark Janaszak, 23 years old from Bramalea. They were second at the Canadian Championships, but are looking for a top 10 placing here at the Worlds.
Watch the opening of this dance. They have really nice knees and great lilt to their dance. Jacqueline and Mark's first compulsory dance at the world level. I think you're going to see them a little bit more relaxed on their second go-round.
Well, a great cheer from the crowd here. There's a number of Canadians. You can see the Canadian flags here for Jacqueline, Peter, and Mark Janaszak of Canada. No Canadian judges on the panel.
They look somewhat relieved, and I think when one comes to a world championship, it's always frightening, scary, exciting, all those things that race through your mind when you first go out to skate at a world championships, and I think we're seeing that reflected on their faces. But for their first go-round, I thought they did a nice job.
4.4.
And here are the marks for Peter and Janaszak, and a range of marks from a 5.0 from the Austrian down to a 4.1 from the Bulgarian judge. Second place marks from the Austrian judge down to sixth place marks from Hungary and Bulgaria. So quite a range for Peter and Janaszak, their first compulsory dance. Well, the nightmare of a steroid scandal and subsequent acquittal behind them after the European Championships. Here are the two-time defending world champions, Marina Klimova and Sergei Ponomarenko. We'll have more on that steroid controversy later. A controversy their coach Natalia Dubova called an absurd mistake. Klimova and Ponomarenko in an uncharacteristic problem, Paul.
They look like they had a very jittery outing. I've not seen them look so no confidence. They just didn't seem to have the confidence and the command of the ice rink that they normally have.
She looked very tense, and you could even see it on her face.
Most unusual for them to go out and skate not up to a world champions standard.
And they were in such fine form in Sofia. Now, we talked about the controversy. It was quelled by an acquittal. There were no problems in the second drug test, which was tested here in Cologne at an IOC sanctioned testing. But you wonder if it plays on their minds what the judges might do with that.
This will be very interesting to see what the judges do, because that was a definite mistake.
Nevertheless, the marks are the best we have seen. 5.8s, 5.7s, and 5.6s. They have top marks clear across the board. However, plenty of room with the Ducheneys still to come. And the Ducheneys are next when CBC's coverage of the World Figure Skating Championships continues. Well, as usual, everyone here is talking about the Ducheneys. They skate for France. They were born in Canada, but they train in Germany. They're favorites everywhere. And after Klimova and Ponomarenko, the door has been opened quite a bit for the Ducheneys in this first compulsory dance.
Sergei looked very tense and uptight. Isabel and Paul looked very relaxed, very confident. It looked like they're out to win this event.
Absolutely. Isabel is just beaming on the ice, and this crowd is giving them a great ovation. Again, they're favorites everywhere, but there is a definite Canadian feel to the crowd here in Munich, and the Flowers coming onto the ice even for a compulsory dance.
Isabel and Paul may not have the depth of edge or the smoothness that the Soviet teams have, but they are able to project the character of the dance, and it goes clear across the boards into the audience.
However, that is apparently not the way the judges have seen it, and there are the marks, 5.4s up to 5.8s. However, those marks are not enough to put them ahead of Klimova and Ponomarenko. Right now, the Ducheneys are in second place. Many feel that this is the premier dance couple in the world. Maya Usova, 26 years of age. Alexander Zulin, 27, from the Soviet Union, third in Halifax. They were the silver medalists at the Europeans in Sofia.
You're going to see some beautiful knees and some incredible twizzles in this dance.
Is such a joy to watch execute this dance. They make it look effortless. They just float across that ice. It's a real treat to watch this caliber of ice dancing.
She really is beautiful, and each time they went around, the fans would all clap as they went around that particular segment of the ice. There is the coach, Natalia Dubova, and she seems very happy with the performance of Usova and Zulin.
This will be very interesting to see what happens with the marks. I found this dance to be far above the rest.
And that's what the judges have found as well. There were 5.6s, but up to 5.9s, and they get first place marks from 6 of the 9 judges. So Usova and Zulin appear to have won the first of the compulsory dances. Coming up next, the rumba, the second compulsory dance, when CBC's coverage of the World Figure Skating
in Munich, site of the 1991 World Figure Skating Championships, first of 6 nights of coverage here on CBC Sports. Over my shoulder, some of the Canadians that have come here, hundreds have traveled over to cheer on the Canadian skaters. Still to come tonight, the original program for the pairs. First of all, though, we have more of the compulsory dance. This is the rumba portion, and once again, to explain just what it is, we call on Canada's international figure skating judge, Jean Sent.
The rumba portrays a more subtle Latin flavor. It is a dance requiring much hidden control, tight partner positions, and soft absorbing knees. Actually, the rumba on ice is different from the rumba of the ballroom floor. The ballroom dance is performed face to face and is undulating, seductive, and with a slowness of musical movement.
The rumba on ice has more of a crisper, sharper feel, and the partners skate side by side. However, the ice dance still must be skated smoothly, without excessive bounce, and with energy derived from the deep knee action. One of the key areas to watch in this dance is the Choctaw section that we are now seeing. Here, a strong forward inside edge on the left foot is followed by an equally strong right back outside edge to again a left forward inside edge, all edges being held for 4 beats of music. The best dancers will skate this Choctaw section with tight hip and upper body positions without breaking or pulling apart. The edges in and out will weave with equal depth, and the unison of the free leg positions will be strongly evident.
A smoothly skated, well-controlled Choctaw section will go a long way towards a successful rumba.
Gene, with those guidelines in mind, will now get a chance to see 2 of the best in the world, Klimova and Ponomarenko, although clearly they were not at their best in the first compulsory dance, and you can see the disappointment written on their faces.
Chris, their first dance was probably not exactly what one would call a personal best for this dance team. I think they've got to come out here now and really prove that they do indeed belong in first place.
She seems to have on a face of steel. I'm sure we're going to see a much better dance this time.
Well, the determination is certainly written on her face. She was clearly upset with her performance in the first compulsory dance. They were also upset they were second, but some felt that perhaps Klimova and Ponomarenko could have fallen to 3rd or 4th place after their compulsory dance, but they are now ready for their rumba. Klimova and Ponomarenko, the 2-time world champions, right now trailing Usova and Zulin, also of the Soviet Union. It was interesting, we did not see the same matchup as we did in Sofia when Klimova and Ponomarenko actually warmed up in front of the judges right alongside the Duchenes. It was called an intentional ploy by the Soviet couple to show the judges their superiority. Right now, Klimova and Ponomarenko and the rumba.
Certainly a better effort than their first dance. However, for the world champions, I still don't see that ease and confidence and air of being the defending world champion out there.
Here's a look at Natalia Dubova. She is the coach, and She certainly doesn't look as happy with that as her other couple, Usova and Zulin, after their first compulsory dance.
This couple, though, is extremely smooth, and as they skate by right in front of us, you can't even hear. They're completely silent. You cannot even hear their edges. They're very, very smooth.
Well, she has a smile on her face, and it must be said that the World Championship won't be decided by the compulsory dances. Here are the marks for Klimova and Ponomarenko.
5.8.
And they are 5.7s and 5.8s.
5.8. 5.7. Thank you. Next
Well, it's a great draw for the Duchenes in that they get to skate right after Klimova and Ponomarenko during both compulsory dances. They are third after the first compulsory dance.
I think this is a dance that Paul and Isabel do quite well, and I think we're going to see some wonderful knees, which is very important for this dance. An important aspect of this dance is how close the skaters stay in the hip region throughout the dance. And I think as you watch Paul and Isabel skate, you'll notice that although there is some space there, it never changes very much. They keep that space as small as possible and as consistently tight as possible.
Extremely strong dance for Paul and Isabel. I just love to watch his knees.
And it's a familiar story here. If the fans were the judges, there's no doubt about where the Duchenes would place. These Canadian fans are cheering them on. That's Martin Skotnicki, the coach of the Duchenes.
I think that the big difference here, Chris, is the fact that they're warming up and using the crowd, whereas the Russian dance team, they just don't seem to be into it with the audience.
They seem so relaxed. Isabel was smiling, and just out of all the dances we've seen today, I see an incredible, they're just so comfortable out on the ice.
Now, we felt that they had the edge on Klimova and Ponomarenko during the first compulsory dance, but that's not the way the judges saw it. So it will be interesting to see this second set of marks for the Duchenes. And once again, they will fall behind Klimova and Ponomarenko, and you can hear the fans reacting negatively. Just one first-place mark, two first-place marks, Bulgaria and Switzerland, but the rest give the edge to the Soviet couple, and the Duchenes have to be somewhat mystified by those marks. When we return, the other Soviet challengers, Usova and Zulin, as CBC's coverage of the World Figure Skating Championship continues from... Here they are, the leaders after the first compulsory dance, as we welcome you back to the Olympic Halle in Munich and the World Figure Skating Championships. Maya Usova and Alexander Zulin. Much talk about costumes. This is kind of out of character for them.
It really is. It doesn't seem to project this subtle Latin flavor that we're really looking for in this dance. But I'm sure what they project on the ice is going to be a little bit different than the costume.
there's a couple out here showing the confidence of wanting to be the world champions. This is it.
I thought it was a great dance. They showed some real depth in their edges that I don't really think we've seen out here yet today. We'll see what the judges have to say.
And it really complicates the whole picture of the dance competition, which so many expected would be Klimova-Ponomarenko against the Duchenes, but they really add a third intriguing element to this whole picture.
Maya has such elegance on the ice, and it's very obvious to see her extensive ballet training, her background, and she's just lovely to watch.
Here are the marks.
A 6.
They get a perfect 6 from the Soviet judge, 5/8 and 5/9. First place marks from each judge but the French judge, who scores them 5/6, but Usova and Zulin will be the leaders after the compulsory dances. Here are the Canadian champions, Michelle McDonald and Martin Smith, a little disappointed with their first compulsory dance, and they stand 16.
I'm sure they're very disappointed. I was talking with their coach, Mary Jane Stong, after the dance, and she said that Michelle was actually feeling so good that she let her concentration get a little bit away from her.
In terms of performance, this was a much better outing for them than the Ravensburger was, and I'd just like to see some marks come up that hopefully will move them a little ways up the standings.
Certainly didn't look like they were affected by those first set of marks. Great Canadian cheering section here, and they're very encouraging. I guess the danger is that if they don't get the marks here, you get slotted by the judges, so they hope to move up. They did have a 11th placement from the French judge and a 12th place from the Hungarian judge, so there is room for them to move up.
Even coming off, I can sense that they're so much more relaxed now. I guess it's a matter of getting that first one out of the way and settling into the competition, and I think they've done that.
Well, Paul, what Barb was saying was interesting because they have enjoyed it here, and they get along so well together. They've been out touring together, and she at one point said it's almost like we're not at a major competition, and maybe there was a sense of being too relaxed.
There is a danger when you really start enjoying something too much. You have to keep your concentration so within yourself, and I think she just sort of let it go a little bit.
Well, you heard their assessment. They're much happier with it. The judges taking a little longer with those marks, and here they come, and they are from 3.7 up to 4.4, so the judges not really rewarding them as we expected.
I'm sure that's a little disappointing for them. As we said before, it's going to take them some time for their unison to really develop as a team.
Jacqueline Peter, Mark Januszak, Canada.
Well, here are the young Canadians, Jacqueline Peter and Mark Januszak, and they are exactly where they wanted to be after their first compulsory dance in 10th spot. They thought they were a little cautious in their first dance, but boy, they are cool. Mark went over and gave a thumbs up to all the Canadian fans here, and here they are in their second compulsory.
they found this dance much more difficult than the Ravensburger, but it seems to me that they performed it just as well, and they're very relaxed.
They're giving us the feeling that they're out there in the top 10. They look like they want to stay there.
And the red-clad contingent is roaring here. There are some of the fans from Canada. 5 different tour groups are here in Munich, and the Canadian fans are always standing out. And right now, Peter and Janaszak are standing out as well.
This has got to be a real boost for them, because as the second-place Canadian team here, they suddenly find themselves ahead of our Canadian champions, and that combined with 2 nice skates, both dances went quite well for them, I think is really going to boost their confidence.
Well, you can see the excitement. They were rated 7th by the Austrian judge after their first compulsory dance.
The marks are such a spread, though. I mean, we're looking at a spread in marks from a 4-1 to a 5-2, and we've been seeing it a lot today, and I'm at guesswork as to why the judging panel is in such a state.
A lot of people don't think they know what to do with this couple because they are so new and are making such an impression. Right now, that could move them up. 9th place right now, and they're happy about it. Problems have concluded, not without the usual discussion about the marking and a somewhat surprising leader. Paul?
Yes, Chris, we've had a big surprise here, and that big surprise was the performance of the defending world champions, Ponomarenko and Klimova. They came out, they were flat, lackluster, and as a result find themselves sitting in second position behind their teammates Vizova and Zulin. The Duchenes gave an excellent showing for themselves and are sitting in a nice, comfortable 3rd position going into the original dance.
Now, Barb, it was a great day for a couple of young Canadians.
Yes, it was. Jacqueline Peter and Mark Janaszak are very pleased with their 10th place position going into the original dance. However, Michelle McDonald and Martin Smith are a little bit disappointed, but as we saw at the Canadians, their best is yet to come.
Well, the original dance will be Thursday. We look forward to that. Now back to Brian Williams.
Thank you, Chris. Still to come tonight, the original program for the pairs. Again, Eisler and Brasseur favored to win gold in this event. Right now in the 2nd installment of our Perfect 6 series to explain about pairs and in particular the spectacular lifts. Once again, here are Barbara Underhill and Paul Martini.
A fascinating look inside figure skating. The world's finest skaters in perfect sixes. Brought to you by the agents of Sun Life.
One of the most spectacular moves in figure skating is the throw jump, found only in the pair event.
Each one of the throws is an existing free skating jump, executed by the lady but assisted by the man to achieve more speed and greater height. In this picture, you see a triple Salchow executed by Jill Trenery on the left and a throw triple Salchow by Christine Huff and Doug Ledre on the right. You can clearly see the difference in the size of these elements.
The best pair skaters in the world can make the throw appear effortless. However, the risk is very high, with the lady often crashing to the ice.
Because of the potential danger of these throws, the ISU has put a limit of 2 throws in the long programs. To maximize the effect, pair teams are throwing higher and farther in the hopes that the success of these elements will bring them closer to achieving the perfect 6.
Perfect Sixes has been brought to you by the agents of Sun Life. Discover the difference the sun makes.
Well, as we witnessed in Saskatoon at the Canadian National Championships, there's also an element of danger in the pairs competition. Christine Huff and Doug Ledre will certainly attest to that. But what about our Canadians and their chances here?
Well, word around Munich is that Isabelle Brasseur and Lloyd Eisler have what it takes to become the next world champions. They've been looking very strong in practice, and they're very confident going into tonight.
2 other teams that have looked very strong here in practice are Huff and Ledre and Ball and Bombardier. They've practiced well, they look sharp, and I'm looking for some personal best from all of these teams here this evening.
Canadians Brasseur and Eisler like their draw. They will skate 9 out of the 19 pairs here. The same can't be said for the new European champions, Natalia Mishkatunik and Artur Dmitriev, 3rd. And I wonder if this draw is to their detriment.
Well, Chris, I really don't see a problem with it. They're the reigning European champions. They medaled last year at Worlds. They are not an unknown quantity to this judging panel.
I saw a 2-foot landing on the double axle there. Incredible flexibility, and here's one example of it.
We have just seen a very soundly skated program. However, their choice of music didn't exactly get me involved in the program. I wanted to be excited, and yet they just glided through the program, and I really didn't get involved. And I don't know whether or not that type of program in this event is going to be one that's going to put them on top.
Well, it was beautiful, and it was elegant, and it's a direct contrast from what you're going to see from Herbie and Isabel, who are just powerful, very powerful. Here's a look at the double axle jumps.
Possibly in slow motion, we can see whether or not she actually did 2-foot this jump on the landing.
Yes, she definitely touched down with her toe.
Choreographically, I found the program somewhat interesting, especially here. We're going to see one of the spins that they executed, but then they went immediately into the pair spin right after this. Kind of unusual that they would not put any other element between the two spins.
They were third at last year's World Championships behind Brasseur and Eisler. They've changed their short program from the Europeans. It was a can-can then, and it didn't seem to carry off their personalities. I think they're better as a dramatic couple.
Well, I find it interesting, Chris. We're going to see their long program later this week, and it is in the same vein as this program. A slow, beautifully choreographed, flowing program, and why they would 2-2 the same, I'm not really sure.
It's the first set of marks for Mishkatunik and Dmitriev. The required elements, 5.4 from the British judge up to 5.7s. These are first place marks, but lots of room there for...
It does look like the judges took a deduction for the double axle.
Natalia not happy with the first set of marks, but I think the second set will please her. As you can see, 5.6s up to 5.8s for the European champions of 1991, Mishkatunik and Dmitriev. Coming up, Canadians Ball and Bombardier. They're next when CBC's coverage of the World The first of 3 Canadian pairs to skate. 17-year-old Stacey Ball of St. Thomas, Ontario. Jean-Michel Bombardier, 20-year-old from Montreal. And this pair skates out of Boucherville, Quebec.
Chris, this is their first appearance at the World Championships, and their goal here is just to make an impression. Hopefully, it's going to be a big one.
They're opening with the double twist. Really nice and high. Very clean. And now the double axels. Nice.
I'm impressed by the fact that although these two skaters are almost of equal height, he handles her quite nicely for a girl of her size. Aside from a small unison problem in their side-by-side pair spin, I thought they've just had an outstanding debut at the World Championships here.
And that large Canadian contingent would certainly agree with you, Paul.
She looked like she was having a great time out there.
It was obvious as soon as they hit those double axles, her face just lit up, and they were off and had an excellent show.
Stacey's a strong skater in her own right. Last year at the Nationals, she placed 8th in the senior ladies event.
After putting a performance like that under your belt, it really gives you the confidence you need to go into the long program here at the World Championships. On the overhead camera, we can see their pair spin, which here in the original program is just that. Each skater is allowed to create a pair spin of their choice, and as a result, you're going to see a lot of very interesting variations in it this evening.
As we prepare for the marks for Stacey Ball and Jean-Michel Bombardier.
5.2, 4.7.
And the first set of marks are coming up, and they are from a 4.7 from the Czech judge up to 5.2s for Ball and Bombardier.
I think they're going to find that those marks are going to hold them into the event quite nicely.
Third place at the National Championships in Saskatoon. They were 4th after the original dance, but moved up in the long program. And here come the marks for presentation, and they're a little bit higher.
These marks look a lot better, and I think that if Stacey and Jean-Michel end up in the top 10, they'll have a great result here at the World.
Good start for Ball and Bombardier. Coming up next, we'll have Isabelle Brasseur and Lloyd. Welcome back to the 91 Worlds in Munich. Canada's Isabelle Brasseur and Lloyd Eisler are moments away from their original program in the pairs competition. Isabelle is Lloyd's fourth skating partner. The coach who brought the two together and has them challenging for a world championship is Jose Picard.
I don't know exactly how it worked either, but all I know is that Lloyd had been without a partner for a few months, and he had gone back to school. And Isabelle had just lost her partner. So, I mean, in the senior level, it's kind of very hard to find a partner. And I went with a team to Junior Worlds in Kitchener. And Lloyd was the team leader then for the kids. And he said to me one day, "Oh, I heard Isabelle doesn't have a partner anymore." And I said, "No." He said, "Oh, well, it's too bad because they had lots of potential and they were a junior team coming up." And he said, "It's too bad." And I said, "Yes." So a few days went by and he came back to me and he said, "Do you know what?" He said, "I stopped skating, but I'm still amateur." And he said, "I think I would like to try out with Isabelle." So I started thinking, well, I don't know what it would look like or whatever. So I phoned Isabelle and I asked her if she was interested in trying out with Lloyd Eisler. Well, her first response was like she almost screamed on the phone, "Are you kidding? I do not want to finish my life in a wheelchair. I will never skate with him." And I said, "Well, Isabelle, why don't you just try? You know, like just try it." "No, I'm not going to try it. I'm too scared." I said, "Fine." So I hung up. I went back to Lloyd and I said, "Yep, she'll try out. When do you want to come down?" So he said, "Well, maybe after this competition during Christmas, just before Christmas, I'll try out." So I said, fine. It took a few days. I came back home and I said to Isabelle, "Why don't you just try?" And she says, "No, I don't want to try." I said, "Well, we'll be there. He's not going to throw you over the boards when we're there. We'll just try it. And if it doesn't work, fine." But I said, "You should be pleased that somebody that's third in the world wants to try out with you. Just for the fun of it, try out." And she had been trying out with a few boys that were like junior or whatever, and she was finding it really hard. So the day came and he came and they tried out together. And the first few lifts and stuff that they did, her face just lit up. And after the trial, right away at the beginning, they could do everything. The first day, they could do the same stuff that they're doing now. All it needed to be was consistent and whatever, plus to fix the size difference and whatever was another story. But when she came off the ice, she said, "Well, if I don't skate with him, I'm never going to skate with anybody else because it's so easy. I want to skate with him." So I thought it was funny because at first she didn't want to, and then after it was over, I told Lloyd, "Well, you decide what you want to do, and if you want to skate with her, she'll skate with you." And then he went home and he came back the week after and they started skating together.
Well, they've come a long way under their coach, Jose Picard, who says they're even better than last year. Our best bet in pairs since Barbara Underhill and Paul Martini. This is Lloyd Eisler and Isabelle Brasseur.
They've had a great week in practice this week. They're skating with the confidence of world champions. Let's watch and see what happens.
With that element complete, they're going to skate an absolutely fabulous program here this evening. just the Canadians stand for this performance. I thought it was probably the finest I have ever seen Isabelle and Lloyd skate, and I think we're going to see some marks that are going to reflect this performance that are going to put them in first place.
Oh, Jose Picard is delighted, and every Canadian in the Olympia Hala is on their feet for Lloyd Eisler and Isabelle Brasseur.
They looked like they were having just a fantastic time out there. Lloyd had a smile on his face through the whole number.
This is the type of program that when it works, it really works. It wins over the audience in a really big way.
Here's a look at their double twist. Look at the height on that. Ferb has enough time to slap his hands at his sides and then set her down. Wow.
Showing no ill effects of that big knee brace that he'll have to wear for the next 2 years. It's a hockey injury suffered in December. And he does have the thick brace on, but no problems landing that jump.
No, that double axel was an element. If there's going to be one that gives them trouble, that would have been it, and they just nailed it.
They did not skate really a full program, and here come the marks, and they are outstanding. The first set of marks, as you can see, are better than the Soviet couple, Mishkatunik and Dmitriev. 6 first-place marks.
I'd be interested to ask two of those judges why they only gave them 5 6s, because everything they did I thought was absolutely outstanding.
And there are the second set of marks. They're even better. 5 9s from Great Britain, Switzerland, and the German judge. And Brasseur and Eisler move into first place in the pairs competition. Right now, Brasseur and Eisler are on top of the world. Back with more of the pairs competition from Munich. Here are the reigning Soviet champions, Eugenia Shishkova and Vadim Naumov. Eugenia 18. Vadim turns 22 next month. They're from Leningrad, third at the European Championships.
An interesting sidebar about this team is that they, as long as Mishkatunik and Dmitriev, train with the same coach, world-famous pair coach, Tamara Moscovina.
She had a problem with the double axel, put her hand down. There will be a deduction for that. I think it's interesting when a team can change tempos as they've just done from the slow to the fast, and it gives the skater an opportunity to change moods. And if you can accomplish it in the short program, that proves you've got a real command of your music.
Shishkova and Vadim Naumov of the Soviet Union. That's a heavy mantle to wear, Soviet champions, especially for a young pair like this who have never been to the Worlds before.
It certainly is. I can remember my first Worlds, Chris. I came in not knowing what to expect, and here they are coming into their first Worlds as the Russian champions, and there's always a lot expected of you.
Here's a look at the double axel jumps. As you can see, she doesn't quite get the height on the jump, and it is forced to put her hand down on the landing.
A nice variation in a hip axle lift here, and it's demonstrating a lot of speed and flow here as they cover a lot of ice with this lift from one end of the ring to the other.
At the European Championships, it seemed like nerves got the best of them. They came in as the Soviet champions, but they really never were in contention against their other two pairs from the Soviet Union. This was a better performance, but Barb, probably not good enough to contend.
I don't think so. I thought Herbie and Isabel were far greater than this team. They were just so much more exciting. I really think that this team will be up there, but I don't think that it's going to be a decision between first or second.
Well, there are a lot of Canadians in the audience, and it's tough to judge because the Canadians were so overwhelming in their support for Brasseur and Eisler, but it seemed to me that they didn't do much for the audience here in the Olympia Hall.
No, it was a type of program that was well skated, solid, but needs experience.
And here are the marks, and I think lower than they anticipated. Down to a 4.9 from the German judge, and Shishkova and Naumov may not be in the top three with marks like that. Here are the presentation marks, the second set of marks for the Soviet champions, and they are considerably higher. However, for the most part, fourth place marks at this point for Shishkova and Naumov, the Soviet champs. Right now, let's go to Brian Williams standing by with the national champions of Canada.
Go. Isabel Lloyd, congratulations. Everywhere I've gone in Munich, they say Brasseur and Eisler are the team to beat. That's a different story than when you went into Halifax. Has it put extra pressure on you?
Maybe a little bit, but we just try to not think about it. And what we try to do is come to Worlds like we did last year and have fun and skate the best we can, and no matter where we come. So that's all we wanted to do, and I think we did really good, at least in the short.
You did really good indeed. Now, all right, if it hasn't put pressure on you being the ones to beat, you had a hockey injury of all things around Christmas, crashed into a goalpost. How about recuperating? Has that maybe helped you in an odd way?
I think in some strange way, Brian, it's helped us because Isabel has had to sort of pick up a little bit more of the slack because I couldn't do a lot, and it made her a lot stronger, and I think over the last few months she's improved even more than she did in the last year, which is making us as a team a whole lot better. And I think now even more we look like a team, and that people are saying, oh, they're the ones to beat, and I think it's because of Isabel having to work harder.
Medals are tomorrow night. Could it have been any better for you this evening, or is this exactly where you wanted to be?
This is exactly where we want to be. We skated well, and we don't really care where we end up, so we're happy.
All right, good luck tomorrow. Get a good night's sleep.
Thank you.
Thanks.
All right, Brian, thank you very much. Here are two contenders to the gold medal that Brasseur and Eisler covet. Yelena Bechky and Denis Petrov of the Soviet Union. They actually beat the Canadian pair at the NHK event this year in Japan.
An interesting sidebar about this team is that they train with Mishkatunyuk and Dmitriev in Leningrad with the world-famous pair coach Tamara Moscovina.
They are very well known for their strong short programs in the past. Lloyd and Isabel's. And here are the double axles. Very solid.
team, they also have got excellent unison, which in pair skating is absolutely paramount to be a world-class competitor.
Short program, but somehow it seemed to lack the speed and the flow that Lloyd and Isabel had.
I'd have to say the thing that struck me about it was the fact that, as Barb mentioned, a strong program, but it didn't exactly involve the audience here. It didn't reach out across those boards and make the audience want to really feel a part of this program. Nonetheless, it's going to be interesting to see how the judges viewed it.
They were the '89 bronze medalists, did not compete in Halifax. You're right about their strength in the original program, in that they finished first in the Europeans in Sofia after the original program, and also at the Soviet Nationals. Their problem has been the long program.
I think their strength in the short program does come from a number of years of competing at this level. This team medaled at Europeans as early as 1986.
Here's a look at the double axles. Nice unison going in. Great height and very solid landings.
5.7.
And the first set of marks are now being recorded, and there they are. The Italian judge 5.3, the American 5.8. The rest in between for Betsky and Petrov. And I think the second set of marks will be very interesting.
5.6, 5.7.
Here are the presentation marks, and they're a little bit higher. Not as high as Brasseur and Eisler, nor Mishkatunik and Dmitriev. So Betsky and Petrov right now are in third place. And we'll have more from Munich in the World Figure Skating Championships after this.
Anushka Gläser, Stefan Prengle, Bundesrepublik Deutschland, Federal Republic of Germany.
Well, this pair will be popular here. Anushka Glaser and Stefan Frengel are from Germany. They are the national champions.
Well, she singled out on the double axle. That'll cost them.
As I watch this program, I'm having a very difficult time trying to examine and make a comment on the unison of the pair, because I find myself somewhat distracted by the sharp contrast in the costume. I find it distracting, and I can't get a good feel as to just how good the unison really is.
the partisan crowd here at the Olympia Hall certainly enjoyed the performance of Glazer and Frengel. They were 12th in Halifax, 6th at the Europeans in Sofia.
In watching the balance of the program after making my comment about the costume, I finally figured out what it is I'm missing, and that's he's disappearing into the ice. The costume's the same color as the ice.
Just look at the double axles, and you can see that she leaves one rotation out, singles out. That will definitely cost them.
As you can see from this overhead, it's very difficult to see where his leg is because it is really disappearing into the color of the ice.
He also has a real problem with that spin as well.
Anushka's a language student. Stefan Frengel's 27 years of age, and he is a med student when he's not skating.
I think we're looking at a team who has got to have a little bit more time behind them before they have any chance of moving and becoming a serious contender in this event. You can tell by the look on her face that she realizes she's made a major mistake, is not very pleased with it, but all in all, not a bad outing.
Here are the first set of marks for this pair that train in Mannheim. The Czech judge gives them a 4.4, the Japanese judge a 4.3, and you can hear the whistles of disapproval from the crowd here at the Olympia Hall. Let's see if the presentation marks are higher. 5. For the German fans, for the most part, that's more like it. Up to a 5-4 from the Swiss and Polish judge. Glazer and Frengel are currently in 8th place, and we'll be back with more from Munich after this.
Republic of Germany.
Well, a disappointment for the German fans is that their national champions Mandy Wutzel and Axel Rauschenbach missed the competition because of illness. This is the second of the German-ranked pairs, Peggy Schwartz and Alexander Koenig.
This team has been competing for East Germany for all of their career, and now this is the first time they'll be competing for the United Germany.
Executed lift, but relative to the others, it did not have the degree of difficulty that we've seen in some of the higher ranked teams here this evening.
I think she touched down on her jump there at the very end.
Watching them skate, I almost feel as though this team has got greater potential and greater talent than the music is letting them show us. They almost appear to be holding back to stay with the music. And I think we could see possibly a stronger program if they had a selection of music that they had to skate up to.
Schwartz and Alexander Koenig of Berlin.
I thought it was a well-skated program. The thing that struck me about it sitting here at the end of the rink is that it was plain to see that this program took place really in the center of the rink. There was not much movement out to the boards and cross-ice coverage. It simply moved up and down the long axis of the arena.
As well, there will be a deduction for the double axel. She clearly tapped her toe down on the landing. And here we have a look at that.
This pair has plenty of experience, though. They were at the Olympics in Calgary in 1988, finishing 7th, and in '89 at the World Championships, they were 4th.
It was nice to see them go out there and lay this program down, because in past she has had some problem dealing with the event, the big day. When it came to putting it out when she needed to, she often had difficulty with it.
And here are the first set of marks for Schwartz and Koenig, and the marks for required elements are 5 3s and a 5-5 from the British judge. So they certainly garner better marks than their German teammates. Let's find out how the presentation marks are. They are across the board. So Schwartz and Koenig move into 5th place. They move ahead of Shishkova and Nabov of the Soviet Union, and also Ball and Bombardier of Canada. Thank you. We are now preparing for Canada's Christine.
Next pair.
Welcome back to the Olympia Halle in Munich as we prepare for Christine Huff and Doug Ledre. The most gripping story of the Nationals was how Christine lived up to her nickname Tuffy. They suffered that horrendous fall early in their long program, regrouped, placed 2nd. They're here, and really the door's open for them to move into the top 3, Barb.
The door is wide open, and this is one of my personal favorites. Let's see how it goes. Christine singled out of the double lutz. That's definitely going to cost them there.
Especially in light of the fact that the majority of the top skaters here are doing double axles in this short program, which is a considerably more difficult element than the double lutz they just tried. Tell this program has got a slightly different humor to it. It's something different that nobody else here has tried, and it's going to be interesting to see if the judges appreciate the little bit of humor that they've tried to inject in this short program. As you watch the animation on their faces throughout this program, you can't help but warm up to this team. They go out there and attempt to have a really good time. Obviously doing it, that's something that they truly love to do, and that's skate.
Well, I love the program, but I just think that they're going to be pretty disappointed with the marks. There has to be a deduction for the missed element.
Well, there's a sea of red here cheering them on, that's for sure. 21-year-old Christine Huff and 29-year-old Doug Ledre.
Here in the replay, we can see that Christine really didn't get a nice setup into that jump. She obviously felt rushed and tried to do it sooner than she probably would have liked.
Now the question, how much will the judges punish them for that?
Well, it's been an interesting evening in that department, Chris, because we've seen some errors that we thought might have received bigger deductions than actually happened, and it'll be up to the judges to decide.
Their best finish at the World Championships was last year in Halifax when they finished 6th. They didn't qualify for Worlds the year before, and Doug said he did a slow burn watching the World Championships on TV from Paris.
There's nothing like missing out on a World Championship than to get you really going and want you to get out there and train harder so that you make that team next year and the opportunity to skate at the World Championships.
You can see the disappointment on Christine's face.
It obviously wasn't the program that they hoped for, but I'm hoping that some marks are going to come up that are going to at least keep them in the hunt for the long program.
Kept going through the rest of it.
Yeah, it was done.
That's their coach and Christine's stepfather, Kerry Leach. The leaders, Isabelle Brasseur and Lloyd Eisler. And here are the first set of marks for Huff and Ledre, and they are disappointing. Check judge 4-5, 4-7, 4-7. And as you can see, those marks for the required elements are quite low.
They're very low. Let's hope that the next set of marks are much higher.
This set of marks is considerably higher, Chris, and you have to remember that in the short program, one cannot afford to miss an element, or you end up getting a set of marks that we've just seen for Christine and Doug in the technical end of the marking.
Quite a discrepancy. We've got a 5-7 for the British judge, yet 3 5-0s. For Huff and Ledre, they will be 9th, and that's behind their teammates Ball and Bombardier. This is the defending Czech champions, Radka Kovarakova, who's 15, and Rennie Novotny, 27-year-old. They were 4th at the European Championships. Last year, 8th in Halifax.
They're also typically very strong short program skaters. I can't help but be impressed by what a wonderful feminine presence she has on the ice. She almost looks like a dancer, a ballerina type air to her that is not often seen out here in the pair event.
I can't help but be impressed by this young girl's presence on the ice. As young as she is, she goes out there with a maturity that often comes after only a number of years of competing at this level.
She almost reminds me of a Soviet dancer. She has real grace and pointed toes.
It's such a nice thing to see in the pair event because it's not often a characteristic of female pair skaters.
And she just turned 15 2 weeks ago. Now, we mentioned the door had been open for Huff and Ladre. Certainly the same thing applies to this pair.
Absolutely. With a performance like that, I think we can look for them to place most certainly in the top 10, just where we'll have to wait and see.
Last year in Halifax, they were 8th at the World Championships. They're the 2-time Czechoslovakian national champions. I'm interested in the difference in age. Her just turning 15 and he's 27.
Well, it's something that you sometimes see in pair skating when a male skater who has some experience is looking for a younger, lighter girl, which will enable them to execute some of the more difficult moves in pair skating that can only be done successfully with a partner who's younger and hasn't matured yet and put on as much weight as a more mature female skater does.
You better watch yourself there. You can get into trouble.
I know, I know.
Well, the judges are certainly taking their time with the marks for Kovarakova and Novotny. They are ready, and now so are we, and it'll be interesting to see where they place this really Czechoslovakian couple.
A really nice set of marks there.
I was hoping that this team would place in the top 10. With that first set of marks, they have the potential to move possibly into the top 5.
These will be the critical marks then for Radka Kovarakova and her partner, and there they are. They do move up. 5-7 from the British judge, and that is a third-place mark from the British judge. And overall, that's enough to put them into 5th place, so a great showing by the Czechs. We'll be back with more from the World Championships in Munich in a moment. Welcome back to the Olympia Halle in Munich, where it's been a great night for the Canadian pairs. Isabelle Brasseur and Lloyd Eisler lead the way after the original program, and 3 Canadians in the top 10.
It was an incredible night tonight for Lloyd Eisler and Isabelle Brasseur. They opened with an explosive double twist, 2 gorgeous double axels, and sailed through from there. They were incredible tonight.
The rest of our Canadian team also did us proud. We've now got 3 teams in the top 10, with Ball and Bombardier finishing 8th, Huff and Ladre 10th. We go into the long program looking stronger than we've ever looked before.
And Brasseur and Eisler will skate for gold tomorrow. Brian?